Juan Pujol García was not trained as a spy. He was not recruited by intelligence services. He had no military rank and no experience in espionage. Yet he would become the man who deceived Adolf Hitler, misled the German high command, and helped save the D-Day invasion. For decades, his story remained hidden inside classified files. Juan Pujol García was born in Spain in 1912. He grew up disliking extremism in all forms. During the Spanish Civil War, he saw both sides commit violence and cruelty. This experience shaped him deeply. When World War II began, he did not support Nazi Germany, but he also distrusted communism. He believed fascism had to be stopped. When Germany began conquering Europe, Pujol decided he would help the Allies. He went to the British embassy and offered his services as a spy. They rejected him. He was dismissed as unqualified and unreliable. Most people would have given up. Pujol did the opposite. He decided to become a spy on his own. He approached the German intelligence service Abwehr and pretended to be a loyal supporter of Nazi Germany. He claimed he could spy on Britain from inside the country. The Germans believed him. They trained him briefly and gave him money, codes, and instructions. The truth was that Pujol had never even been to Britain. Instead of traveling to London, he stayed in Portugal and began sending reports to Germany, based entirely on imagination, newspapers, public information, and pure invention. He described British troop movements, ports, factories, and morale. None of it was real. The Germans trusted him completely. They gave him the codename Garbo, inspired by the actress Greta Garbo, because of his acting skills. They believed he had created a large network of informants across the United Kingdom. In reality, every single agent in this network was fictional. Garbo invented names, personalities, habits, and even personal problems for each fake agent. He reported illnesses, arrests, and even deaths of agents to make the story believable. German intelligence never questioned it. Eventually, British intelligence discovered him. Instead of arresting him, they realized what he was: a natural deception expert. MI5 decided to turn him into a controlled double agent. From that moment, Garbo worked fully for the Allies. His greatest contribution came before D-Day. The Allies needed to convince Germany that the invasion of Europe would not occur in Normandy. Garbo became the key instrument. Through hundreds of messages, he told the Germans that the real invasion would come later at Pas de Calais. Normandy, he said, was only a diversion. The Germans believed him so deeply that even after Allied troops landed in Normandy, they refused to move armored divisions. Hitler himself trusted Garbo's reports more than field commanders. Because of this delay, thousands of Allied soldiers survived. The Germans rewarded Garbo with the Iron Cross. The British later awarded him the Order of the British Empire. He was one of the very few people in history decorated by both sides of the same war. After the war, Garbo feared revenge. He faked his death and disappeared. For years, the world believed he had died in Africa. His real role was revealed only decades later when intelligence files were declassified. Juan Pujol García lived quietly, knowing that his greatest victory was invisible. He never fired a weapon. He never commanded troops. Yet his lies changed the course of history, and the world almost never knew his name. Juan Pujol García understood that lies alone were not enough. To survive as a double agent, he needed consistency, detail, and emotional realism. Every report he sent to German intelligence was carefully constructed. He included small mistakes, delays, and irrelevant details to make his intelligence appear human rather than perfect. This attention to realism made his deception stronger. As his reputation grew, the Germans increased their trust in him. They provided more funding, more freedom, and more responsibility. Garbo was no longer just an informant. In their eyes, he had become a critical intelligence asset operating deep inside Britain. To support his fictional network, Garbo created entire personal histories for his imaginary agents. He described their families, their political views, their jobs, and even their personalities. One agent was described as careless, another as cautious, another as greedy. This diversity made the network believable. When the Allies bombed German targets, Garbo sometimes reported the information too late. He explained that one of his agents had been delayed or arrested. German intelligence accepted these explanations without suspicion. In reality, these intentional delays were designed to maintain credibility without giving real-time intelligence. British intelligence closely monitored every message. Nothing was sent without approval. Mi-5 recognized that Garbo was one of their most valuable weapons. Unlike bombs or tanks, his power came from trust. As preparations for the Allied invasion intensified, Garbo's role became even more dangerous. Operation Fortitude was the deception plan designed to mislead Germany about the location of the invasion. Garbo was at the center of it. He reported the existence of a massive Allied force in southeastern England. He described tanks camps, radio traffic, and supply movements that did not exist. This fictional army, known as the First United States Army Group, was supposedly commanded by General George Patton. The Germans considered Patton the most aggressive Allied general and believed he would lead the invasion. Garbo reinforced this belief repeatedly. He warned German intelligence that Normandy was only a distraction. The real invasion, he insisted, would come later at Pas de Calais. The Germans reorganized their defenses accordingly. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces landed in Normandy. Garbo sent a message claiming that his agents had warned him, but the information arrived too late. He apologized for the delay and blamed communication problems. German intelligence accepted this explanation. More importantly, Garbo continued to insist that the Normandy landings were not the main attack. He urged the Germans to hold their reserves back for the real invasion that never came. For critical days, German armored divisions remained inactive. Hitler refused to release them. He trusted Garbo's intelligence more than reports from the battlefield. This hesitation allowed the Allies to establish a secure foothold. The success of D-Day depended not only on soldiers and commanders, but on deception. Garbo's lies were as powerful as any weapon. German intelligence rewarded him with the Iron Cross. It was one of the highest honors in Nazi Germany. They believed he had served the Reich with loyalty and skill. At the same time, British intelligence awarded him the Order of the British Empire. Few individuals in history have received honors from both sides of the same war. After the war, Garbo understood that his life was in danger. If the truth became known, he could be targeted by former Nazis or intelligence agencies. To protect himself, British intelligence helped him fake his death. The world believed Juan Pujol García had died of malaria in Angola. In reality, he moved to South America. He lived quietly under a different identity. He ran small businesses and avoided attention. For years, even his own family did not fully understand his role in the war. Decades passed. Files were declassified. Historians began uncovering the truth. The man who invented an army, the man who deceived Hitler, finally emerged from the shadows when Garbo was eventually reunited with former British intelligence officers. They greeted him with admiration. His work was no longer secret. His contribution to history could finally be acknowledged. Juan Pujol García died in 1988. He did not die as a soldier or a general. He died as a man whose greatest weapon was deception and whose greatest victory was invisible. His story is a reminder that wars are not won only on battlefields. Sometimes they are won in silence through patience, imagination, and courage. Even after the war ended, the impact of Garbo's work continued to be studied quietly inside intelligence circles. Allied analysts later concluded that the deception surrounding D-Day was one of the most successful intelligence operations in modern history. At the center of it stood a man who had never received formal training and who had begun his mission alone, driven only by conviction. What made Juan Pujol García unique was not just his creativity, but his understanding of human psychology. He understood that intelligence officers did not want perfect information. They wanted believable information. He gave them doubts, errors, emotions, and small failures. This made his reports feel real. He also understood hierarchy and ego. He knew that once senior, German officers committed to a belief they would defend it rather than admit a mistake. By reinforcing their expectations, Garbo locked them into a false narrative they could not escape. Historians later discovered that even when some German field commanders suspected Normandy might be the main invasion, their warnings were dismissed. Garbo's reports had already shaped the mindset of the High Command. Trust once established became a weapon. For many years, Garbo avoided publicity. He rarely spoke about the war. When he did, he minimized his role. He described himself as lucky rather than brilliant. Those who worked with him disagreed. They believed his intuition and discipline were exceptional. Only late in life did he return briefly to public attention. When invited to anniversary events connected to D-Day, he stood quietly among veterans whose lives he had helped save, without ever meeting them. Few recognized him. Fewer still understood what he had done. Today, intelligence agencies still study his methods. His case is used as an example of how strategic deception can alter the course of history without a single shot being fired. His legacy lives not in monuments or statues, but in classified manuals and quiet respect. Juan Pujol García proved that even in the largest war the world had ever seen, a single individual could make a difference without violence. His battlefield was the human mind. His victory was trust. And for many years, his triumph remained invisible to the world.